Well, good afternoon, everybody. I hope you enjoyed the music, and we're excited to be here. We're closing down the wedding reception, is what I told the panelists as we were listening to that music. So we're very excited to be here. My name's David Prente. I'm the Senior Vice President of Strategic Partnerships for the Chamber, and I get to support Vicki and you all in this awesome process that is our small business celebration. So I'm very excited to be here. I hope you all are excited to be here. We've got some great panelists and some great friends that you're going to hear from today. And they're excited to engage with you and let you know how you can pursue the Mr. K Award and benefit from the application process itself. So it's a really neat opportunity for you, and they're going to share from their lens what it's meant to them and their company. So also excited myself for the good things that are on the horizon. I had a brief dialogue with some of our panelists around their business and where they're headed in the coming months. And it just seems like there's excitement all over around what's going on in our economy. So an exciting day, and we've got some amazing sponsors that help make today possible. You saw them on the slide, but our presenting sponsor is Evergy and Blue Cross and Blue Shield of Kansas City. We've also got a CEO sponsor in Honeywell and a media sponsor in Startland News. And those folks mean a lot to us here at the Chamber and help make programming like this possible. A couple other people make this possible, and that's Connie and Aaron Zach, two good friends of the Chamber and the 2008 Mr. K Award winner with their business, Sunlighten. They've done some amazing things in their career, and they've pivoted, just like many of you in this past year, to adapt to the environment out in front of them. And they're going to guide our conversation today. So Connie and Aaron are sitting very close together, and they're going to facilitate this as they see fit. So Connie and Aaron, I'll throw it over to you.
Thank you so much, David. Thank you for everybody related to the Chamber for inviting us to do this. This is such a wonderful, wonderful event and wonderful award, and we're honored to be a part of it again. And I'm excited to get all the questions and encourage everybody to apply, especially because this year, it's such an important year for us to support small businesses and do everything we can. And I am proud to say that the Kansas City Chamber has done just that. Earlier this year, to kick off the Small Business Celebration, they honored the first ever Small Business Superstars, which are small businesses that have been recognized by their customers and clients and members as an outstanding small business. And the Chamber named 1,200 of them, which is it just makes me like so warm inside to know that our city is just continues to be so amazing with all of this talent. And speaking of talent, we have 4 just rock star panelists that I'm thrilled. I love doing this event, love moderating it. This time we have 4 Mr. K winners. And so you guys are in for such a treat. And let's start with the first one, Phela Cherry. Phela founded Cherry Company in 2012, and it's a national sporty fashion clothing company that's super cool. They have locations at Made in KC as well as the Negro League Museum. Phela is also very impressive to know, an all-American athlete as well as a business owner. And Cherry & Company won the 2020 Kansas City Chamber Diverse Small Business of the Year Award, as well as the 2020 Top 10 Small Business.
And I would like to introduce Andrew Daoist, CEO of Pro Athlete. He was a 2020 Mr. K Small Business of the Year. He has made a career at Pro Athlete spanning over 10 years. Pro Athlete sells bats, gloves online, but Andrew makes sure they're doing a lot more than that.
Next, we have Kimberly Robinette, who's the CEO of Trek Design Group. Kimberly's company, Trek, is an engineering firm. They're dedicated to clean water, safe roads, and improving lives. Kimberly is also an engineer as well as a business owner. She won the 2016 Kansas City Business Journal's Women Who Mean Business, as well as 2019 Mr. K.
Finally, we have Brad Sant, President and CEO of Menlo, was the 2016 Mr. K Small Business of the Year. He's been a previous judge, spoiler alert for the panel, for the past several years. In 2010, he founded K-12. Today, the company Menlo provides expert technology services to both the K-12 schools as well as civic organizations. He's the director of technology for more than 14 years at Park Hill School District. So welcome to our small business panel. We're truly excited. We're gonna make this very fluid. So this is truly for all of you to ask questions, get great feedback. And so to start off, we're gonna ask some kind of basic questions, but if you have a question, feel free to enter it into the chat and we'll get to it at the right timing. So as we start, what I like to do is start with, let's say, Andrew, but I want each panelist to go through in a minute or less, if you can briefly describe your business and what you do in your words, but then also go into what made you decide to apply for the Mr. K Small Business Award.
Yeah, so I'm Andrew Daoist and CEO of Pro Athlete. We sell baseball bats, gloves, now pickleball paddles, and apparel, all online. And we've been in business since 1987. I've been here about 11 years now, and we're one of those companies that really puts a big emphasis on company culture, in addition to all the things we sell online. And we actually put the culture part first, and always say we happen to sell stuff online as well. And I think for us, the Mr. K Award was just something near and dear to our hearts, given the similarities to all the things he did in our organization, giving back to the community, the tie to baseball and all those things. And, also, going through this process, we've met a lot of amazing people, formed great relationships with the chamber, and, couldn't be more thankful for the opportunity that we've been given to be a part of this whole thing.
Great. Phela.
Hi, everyone. So our company, Cherry Co., is a sporty clothing and merchandise company. And so we currently have within our portfolio 22 colleges and universities that we supply all types of products for, in addition to the Negri baseball, which we're super excited about, and all the just advancement that has happened over this last spring. And the reason and purpose that we applied is that I had been really extremely blessed with receiving a lot of individual awards along the way. And it was really important that I really wanted to highlight the great work of our entire team. And we felt like through the process of actually applying for the Chamber Award that we would receive that recognition, but also just highlight the great work that so many on my team that are so talented that they're doing.
Thanks, Phela.
Kimberly.
Yes, Trek, as Connie mentioned, we're a civil engineering firm, and so we design the plans that heavy contractors use to build roads, and we also help maintain infrastructure for sanitary, storm, sewers. We work with Department of Transportation, municipalities, federal work, as well as private developers. We decided to apply, kind of really in line with what Phela said, is really wanted to highlight the great work that Trek had been doing throughout the years. And it was an opportunity for us to really focus on what we've accomplished so far and to really craft that story and share with others. For me, it was a little bit personal because I did work, I had the privilege of working at this Royal Stadium, and for Mr. K, I was a server, so a pretty entry-level position, and just the impact that he made on me went very early, very young in my career, 18 years old, and I came to remove some dishes from his suite, and it's the age-old saying, I don't know what he said, I don't know what he did, but I remember how he made me feel. And I've always strived to incorporate that into Trek and to emulate that in our business. So
Awesome. Thank you. Brad.
Good afternoon, everybody. Brad Sant, president of Menlo. And as Aaron mentioned, we started as K-12 ITC a little over 10 years ago. And a passion of our organization is really helping students and impacting the educational process. And that's how we started. And so we saw a very tight tie to Mr. Kaufman and the educational endeavors and making sure that we're impacting our communities. And so from a business standpoint, we support about 80,000 students now across the country, and wanted to highlight the good work we were doing, much like the other panelists, and also wanted to really get everybody together, like Andrew mentioned, and do it to get everybody on board and recognize the great things that were going on, but also our opportunities to improve and where we were in comparison to other small businesses in Kansas City.
It's great. So one thing I just want to point out before Connie asks the next question, but for all of our participants, there's no single track towards success. I mean, this is a very, very diverse group. It's not, you have to be a marketing company or all these kind of big aspects. So there's so many different paths to success. And I think that's really, really neat is whatever your passion is, whatever you're doing to make a difference, that's a great opportunity for you to apply and be a part of this.
Yeah, that's a great ad. I couldn't agree more. I remember when we went through, I was so intimidated by some of the companies that were, their names were out there more. And so it's really important to keep that in mind. On that note, Brad, I'd love it if you could, since a lot of people aren't familiar with this process and maybe not familiar with the formerly 3 pillars and now 4, and you were part of that team that decided to add a 4th. Can you just quickly speak to what the judges will be looking for the participants?
Absolutely. So the application has 3 historical pillars of community involvement, company growth, and employee relations. And as the judging panel and the chamber got together this year and reviewed the application process, we always included diversity and inclusion as a part of the application and review process from a judging standpoint, but felt the need to make sure that that was highlighted on the application and as a key pillar as we move forward with the award. And so this year, the application will focus on more questions related to that, and especially so that we can get that information in the judging process. It doesn't mean that you have to be the rock star, superstar from a diversity and inclusion standpoint, but we want to know what you're doing. How are you impacting the community? How is your business making a difference when it comes to diversity and inclusion?
Thanks so much, Brad.
Perfect. All right, so the application process, it's quite extensive and it can be quite daunting. And so as I'm looking at it, I might be a little afraid and intimidated to fill it out. Is there any encouraging words that you'd be able to provide on, how to attack the process and kind of get through it? And maybe we could start with you, Kimberly.
Yeah, I felt the same way. In fact, we waited a year before we actually applied because of the application itself. And I will say that I wish I wouldn't have. I wish we would have just jumped in. I think it does take some time, but just jump in and start it, because the reflection of what you've built, the reflection of what you are today and crafting that story is going to make you better. Either whether you get Mr. K or top 10 even, it's going to make your company better. It's going to make your business and help you understand where you need to focus your energy to get that message crafted in a way that you can continue to grow and prosper.
Perfect. Phela, would you like to expand as well?
I totally agree with Kimberly. I feel like it walked me through this design thinking process. It was pretty intense. And I remember listening to the panel the previous year before actually applying, and they made it seem very simplified. But my experience and my lens is that the best approach that I think worked for us was that when I did the application, then I would kind of go away from it for a little bit, come back to it, kind of enhance some areas. And I think if you can allow yourself that time to do that, it's helpful. But it truly is a tool that you really, really assess and analyze kind of where you are. But it is a powerful piece too, to also see how far you've come too. So I think sometimes, because we're always in the grind of what we got to do next, it's nice to kind of reflect back too.
It's great. Andrew?
Yeah, I'll piggyback off what Thalia said. It's a great exercise to do with your team, to reflect on where you've come as a business. As you're going through the process, there's some great questions and things to look through. And I think it gives you that moment to pause and appreciate all the work that you've done, while you're filling it out. It is extensive. There are a lot of questions on there. But I think it's also very beneficial, for you to be able to reflect on that. And the one other thing I would say to everybody on it, fill it out honestly and don't try to embellish and stuff like that. Be you, because if you embellish and stuff during that part, the judges will find that out later. So start it off on the right foot, be who you are and own who you are. I don't think you'd want to win the award being a different company. So.
Great, thank you.
Brad, do you have anything additional to add to the panelists before we move on?
Yeah, the only comments I would make on the award is it is a bit intimidating, especially when you're filling it out online. And one thing I think that helped us when we did it initially was to copy the questions off of the form, and we put them all into a Google Doc and allowed everybody to participate and contribute to the different sections, and then kind of tidied it up at the end. And so it made it really easy to do that. And then once we went to actually fill out the application online, it wasn't as intimidating because we were just copying and pasting information in. So that really helped us.
Yeah, we did the same thing. That's a great point, Brad. Because as Celia mentioned, like you do need some time away and to really, digest what you've written and kind of, especially as you pass through the questions, you'll want to come back and revisit other points where you maybe want to add or, move it to a different section. And so that's a really great point.
Thank you guys so much. That was great. So now we've filled out the application. We know what the criteria are. One of my personal favorite parts that the chamber puts on a celebration is it truly is a process, right? And it's a celebration along the way. So what I'd love to hear from each one of you, and we'll start with Phela, is, you have the candidate showcase, you have, the different types of parts of the process. Highlight some of the reasons that you would really encourage people to participate, specifically related to that part of the process.
I would say for our team, I think the part that stands out the most was really more so the interview process of the period. I think that really listening or just having that time period with the judges to really kind of think through what our business truly meant and really kind of reflecting back on the purpose and our why was very meaningful for us in our growth. And I think you could see the evolution by all of the steps and strategies that take place for the culmination. But I think that was what really stood out for us.
Thanks, Phela. Andrew?
Yeah, I remember back because we had went through this process a couple of times, and back when you'd go to Union Station and you'd see all the businesses have the booths and stuff. For those of you who never saw that, it was awesome. It was just really cool to walk in there and see small business in Kansas City represented like that. And this last year, it was obviously a little different, but I think we felt the same sense of pride, even though the steps were a little bit different. But the interview process with the judges, again, we learned a lot. We got to self-reflect. We were still out of the office at the time for some of this stuff, but we had a couple employees help, and the timing was perfect for them to feel a part of something because we'd all been away from each other, for so long. So, and I think just the relationships you gain through this whole thing. I mean, that's probably the thing I think pro athletes taken away the most. We can now reach out to the people on this panel and the chamber. If you ever get in a jam or you have a business question, that's pretty invaluable. And you get that as a benefit of going through this process.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Kimberly?
Yes, I love the showcase. We also, when we went through it, we were at Union Station. And for me, it was really cool because our work is something that impacts every person every single day, but yet so few people know what we do. And so for the opportunity for us to go and talk to people that we don't work with every day and share with them the passion that we have for clean water and safe roads, and share with them some of the technologies and the innovative ways that we're solving these problems was really, really rewarding for us. And we got to include some of our staff who are really passionate about it too. And so to be able to see them actually sharing that passion with the general public was really, really great.
Yeah, that's such a great benefit, like Phela said, as far as like when everybody comes together and joins forces to share the same common vision, it's really magical. Brad?
I think this process from the application to the showcase, even to the judging interview, it's all about telling your story. And one thing I've noticed just in us doing this is the passion that we have and all of our staff participating, but then also from a judging standpoint, everybody that goes through this, there are so many neat small businesses in Kansas City. And like Kimberly mentioned, many of them are not known well or publicly or among lots of people. And to hear everybody's passion, I encourage you to go through the process because it's an amazing journey. It's so cool for Kansas City. And I do think, as other panelists have mentioned, it's an opportunity to grow as an organization. And so it is just one of the neatest processes I think that we've ever been a part of.
Well said, all of you. Thank you so much for answering that question. And I just wanted to reinforce what Kimberly said earlier, because I just remember like thinking so much about it, and you can overthink it. And one of the best things to do is just to jump right in, because you will, you know, regardless of what happens, you will learn so much, and you can do it. It doesn't have to be a one and done, right? You can do it over and over again. So I just wanted to echo that comment. Go ahead.
You know, another tough thing for me when I was going through the process was feeling comfortable to give the financials. And I know that's an important part of the application process. So I would love if you could help walk our participants through, you know, getting over that concern of giving the financials and kind of going through that process. And so, Andrew, why don't we start with you?
Sure. Yeah, that was definitely, you know, one of the, like early on when we first applied, was one of the things we're like, oh, okay. And we kind of had that, you know, that point where we're like, do we want to keep going forward with this? But I'm really glad we did, because obviously we got to experience everything that comes along with it. But it also kind of ripped that Band-Aid off in other parts of our business where we held the financials so tight. It actually blossomed into us feeling comfortable sharing our financials with other employees and opening the books up. And it's helped our business, you know, a lot more with that transparency. Now you've got people out there keeping an eye on those for you. So not only did it help throughout the process for the Mr. K award, it helped just our business every day. So I'm glad we did it.
Wow, that's great. Phela.
I also think it's really important to recognize and understand too that the financials are really just to make sure that there's growth in general, and not necessarily the hard numbers. And so that, I think, gives a lot of businesses the kind of the ease and of the burden in itself. But it also helps you kind of just to revisit it, to really see like where your strides and growth are that maybe you hadn't revisited. So I think it can be beneficial in that aspect as well.
Great. Kimberly.
Yeah, I think the same. I think one thing for me is that knowing that the chamber does such an amazing job of keeping that information confidential, and it's kind of an arm's length transaction. And so it gave us a little bit of anxiety, I think that, well, what Phela and Andrew both said, that there are benefits to it personally, and obviously to show your success and make you a viable candidate for the award.
That's great. Brad?
I would echo what everybody said. The one thing I would add is, while the award is focused on growth, the judges understand business cycles. And so a down year, if you have one of those, it's okay. Explain why, talk about why that is, and tell your story again, but don't be afraid if you don't think your financials are perfect, or the biggest percentage gain in the metro area, whatever. It's all about the story, and sharing your financials. Again, they're highly confidential. The judges don't see them. I can tell you that from my experience, other than a percentage of growth. And so it made us really, really nervous. We work with public sector and things that we didn't really want to share, but going through the process, it was opening for us, just like everyone else mentioned.
That's great. Thank you.
So something I'd love to focus on is how specifically you feel, especially for those people that are like head down, they're really focused on growth, right? They're focused on their business, and they just, you know, are struggling with maybe, you know, especially with the pandemic, everything that's going on, struggling with taking their eye, you know, off the target. So think about, you know, your experience, and, you know, many of you did this, you know, several times. What would you say to somebody who is just like, look, I can't worry about awards. Like, I just kind of like, you know, I got to make payroll. And we'll start with Phela.
Thanks, Connie, for pitching that one to me first. Thank you.
Well, Cherry Co is pretty awesome. So I
think we definitely can relate. I think on pandemic is that we're small, right? And so when you're small, there are a lot of responsibilities to cover. And so within this time period and this reality of our lives, even if that didn't exist, it would really take a lot of time to really make sure we continue to tell our story in the process. There are just so many amazing benefits though through that process. So even if you don't become the top 10, you learn so much about your company, yourself, your team, your talent, and really how you can grow and aspire in so many different ways. And so even though it can feel like, it requires a great deal of time, the time is well vested. It's a great return on investment. I feel like we've gained so much, not only the relationships that Andrew had alluded to earlier, but we've just really grown as a company and being centered in who we are. And I think to have that process and that experience is something that we would have not had if we'd not gone through the process. So it's definitely worth the investment of the time.
Great answer. You killed it, Phela. Andrew?
Yeah, I think she said it really well. Maybe just a few things I'd add, from pro athlete standpoint, it was pretty natural. We tend to manage to the experience and not to the bottom line. And so, we tend to do a lot of things that don't make sense to the bottom line, but then they somehow always come back around. And, you may say, oh, this is going to take me away. I'm not going to make as much money or be as profitable if we're distracted by this. But if you look at it, the other way and go, wow, if we spent some time on this, a lot of other things could come. Yeah, we may have a month that we don't have to do as much revenue or whatever because of it, which I don't think you would. But if that was your fear, but the things you gain from it, and then I think that clarity, that's a good way to run your business. That's what I said in the acceptance speech for the Mr. K this year. The next time you have a tough business decision, try to go towards the experience of the employees and others instead of the bottom line. I think this is a great example of that. And then you'll end up getting that back tenfold, I believe.
That's great. Thank you so much for sharing. Kimberly?
Yes, I think the reflection, as everyone has alluded to, I think that's one of the main goals. But upon winning, whether it's top 10 or the Mr. K, there are so many rewards that come with that. You think about the time you spend retention, recruitment, connecting with clients. These awards help give a real edge to those challenges, or what can be a challenge. I mean, to say that you are a Mr. K winner or that you're top 10. That just sets the kind of the tone for what kind of business you run, and people want to be a part of it. And so while it might be taken away from time right now, it's going to pay back tenfold in recruiting and retention. And then in addition to that, like connecting with clients, I found that you don't go into a client and you tell them everything about what you do. You don't have time for that. You got to jump right into, what problems you're going to solve, or what you're there to actually discuss. And to be able to say I'm a Mr. K award winner, that kind of sets the tone and tells them what kind of business they're dealing with. And so it helps you connect with the client. You can give an elevator speech like ours of improving lives through clean water and safe roads. We can say a few words, kind of hit on high level, and saying that we have been recognized not only amongst our industry, but amongst business in general. It just really helps elevate your position and your the way your clients see you.
Mm-hmm. So true. Love that. Brad?
Well, that's a hard group to follow with the answers, because
I told you it was an awesome panel.
But really, as the phrase goes, you can't see the forest through the trees. And I think as small businesses, a lot of times we get our heads down too much, and it's good to get above and see what's going on. And the application process is kind of like a mini strategic planning in some ways. And so going through that process, I think kind of is a discipline that's something that's needed in the business anyway. And as entrepreneurs and business owners, it's always hard to get that time. So all the benefits that come out of it, and the future growth and everything else is just a short-term investment for long-term gain. So.
Thank you.
Okay, so you've now applied and you've been accepted into the candidate showcase. What do I do now? So if you would mind sharing ways that I could stand out in the candidate showcase. Brad, I'm going to go back to you because you're going to share from a judge perspective and also from your own perspective.
Yeah, I keep hitting this home, but it's tell your story, and everybody's unique in how they can tell their story. Maybe a video is a good way to tell a story. Others are history of the company, maybe spoken. Others are in demoing products. So understand your business and how you're unique, and how you fit into Kansas City and everything that's going on. And so tell that story in your own way, and that's the recommendation I would have.
So before we move on, because it's just so great, like I wish I would have had a chance to talk to a judge when we were going through this. Is just awesome for the people who are on this to have the opportunity. So speak from like, I know you can tell the story, but there's certain specific things that you're looking for, certain things that will resonate with the judges in general, not just you. Can you just kind of give some tips to that for the group?
Yeah, I think really all the judges are going to have a little different opinion, but they're all looking at the same four pillars this year. And so key to highlight is, again, involvement in the community, what you're doing there, how you're engaging with your employees, what that means on a daily basis, and what it does for your business, how you've grown and the challenges you've overcome, and how you've been able to get there. And again, we know business is hard and doesn't always go swimmingly well, and there's challenges, but how do you overcome those? How do you do those? And then again, how are you embracing diversity and having an inclusive workforce as you operate your business? And those four pillars are what we're going to be looking at. All judges will be looking at, all with their own lens, all with their industry backgrounds, but wanting to know how that comes together to make a thriving business.
Perfect. Thanks so much for adding that.
Kimberly.
Well, that's going to be hard to follow, Brad.
There's a theme here.
Yeah, no kidding. I think, that exactly what Brad said. You got to pay attention to the four pillars, and you've got to tell your story and how you strive to really live up to those four pillars. And, the more engaging you can be with how you share that, whether it's a video or, and I liked bringing others, not just seeing the passion from the ownership group, but from those that have been moved to join our journey, and having them tell their side of how they feel that Trek is living up to these pillars, and why they're excited to be a part of it. Another thing, like if you have something that sets you apart from your industry, share that, but also explain your industry, because we're not, everyone on, that is being a part of this, they're not experts in your industry. So you have to make sure you give them some background to, your business compared to those of your peers.
Great. Phela?
So when we strategized and we thought through like what would be the best approach for the showcase, I knew I was going to get some heavy hitters, right? And so we wasn't necessarily like this big known company. And I wanted to really showcase and bring to light who we were. And so one of the fundamental pieces that really drives our business is really community investment. And we established our company in 2012, but also a foundation in 2012, because it was really important for us to give back in three core areas. And those are education, sports, and entrepreneurship. And so what I did is I asked individuals that were affiliated to those three categories to do a short 1-minute video about what our company meant to the Kansas City community. And so we utilized the video approach, but I think it was really important to just that process for people to see who we were, what was really important to us, and what really was the core of the belief of who we were as a company. So that was the approach we took on it.
It's great. Great example. Andrew.
Yeah, those are definitely tough to follow. I think Brad, said it best in the very beginning, which is tell your story, your being the key word there, because again, I said it earlier, but I just think if you're trying to be a different business or somebody you're not, it's going to come out later. So if you're a company that can put together really cool videos and be really creative, be that company. Don't just be that company, that day, because you think that's what might win over the judges, because they'll be able to see through that. For us, it was very much about the people. I remember we had every single employee, and not to give ideas in case that wasn't the best thing, but we had every single employee on a Zoom call, and they introduced themselves to the judges and said a little piece about themselves, because we felt like our employees are at the core of what we do. And we wanted the judges to get a glimpse in the virtual space we were in of who the people were that were pushing pro athlete forward. So we tried to get as creative as we could, but I think sticking to who you are and like for us, our core values, I think is definitely the best advice.
That's great. Thank you.
Could I add too? I was actually really glad we went from the showcase physically because I was stressing majorly. Like it really, like I love the virtual approach because I think it helped to just hone in authentically on who we were instead of kind of what you want to project. And so I was very, very thankful. I don't know how others felt, but I was thankful.
Yeah, there's definitely some advantages, right? To, I mean, this last year going, through the process virtually, I mean, it makes the whole visiting each location,
Safe time.
but yeah, there's advantages and there's disadvantages. It's I guess the most important thing is it's reality. So we have to learn how to thrive in our current reality. So I want to say, while I am talking, that we're right close to the time where we're going to open it up to questions. So if you do have any, you can put it in the chat, or you can raise your hand and we can call on you as well. And I want to make sure we have time for the audience to be able to ask our amazing panelists. So before we switch over to questions and answers, let's switch gears just a small amount over to the pandemic, because we just couldn't have this conversation if we didn't include talking about what's going on and how it's impacted your business. I have a ton of other questions regarding that, but I think before we get into the questions from the audience, they could really learn, from all of you experts on how you're managing your business and how you have managed your business through COVID this year. And I won't call on you, Phela, first. This time I will call on Andrew first. So I'll call on you last.
Awesome. Yeah, it's been tough, like I know all of you have experienced, and I think I've said this a lot, so I apologize if any of you have heard it, but core values. We chose to stick to those core values, and that's what guided us through the pandemic. We did our best to not let anybody go, in 2020. That was something that was important to us. We're still not back in the office, but we're an e-commerce company, so we were able to do that a little easier than other businesses. But I never been more sure that the core values that we have, are that important to our business. The embrace stewardship core value helped us give back to others in need during the pandemic, even though our sales were down 95%, and we still kind of stuck through and just stuck to those. But we're looking at coming back into the office maybe in the fall at a kind of a different setup where it's going to be optional for people. They don't have to come back. And we're looking at a 3-day work week of Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. And those are the days you can come into the office, but you don't have to. We're going to try that for the rest of the year and see what happens. But at this point, I don't think we know a whole lot. We're just going to take it a day at a time and see what happens.
Great. Thanks, Andrew. Let's see. We'll go to Brad and then Kimberly and then Phela, just so you know the order.
Yeah, what a challenging year. I mean, I think as a business, the word I think of, and I echo what Andrew says in terms of core values, and that's the guiding principle. But the word I would use for this last year is agility and needing to be agile. We, as I mentioned, we support students and technology, and we typically work through teachers. And so we went last March from supporting about 12,000 teachers on our help desk, and 2 weeks later, when everybody went virtual, our staff started supporting 90,000 people. With the same staff on the phones. And what was amazing to see is we just laid out the challenge for our organization and got everybody together, and everyone stepped up to make that happen. And again, for us, we were adamant about not laying anyone off, keeping moving forward and serving our customers the best we could. And somebody once gave me some advice that every crisis is an opportunity, and I see that as see your way out. And any time you have challenges, because this year it's the pandemic, 2 or 3 years it will be a recession or something different, whatever it is. It's always tough, and you got to be agile and be thinking ahead. and see your way out. So that's kind of what our guiding principle has been, and making sure we're moving forward.
Thanks, Brad. Kimberly? How
So
you
we,
doing?
yes. So we have kind of two sides of the house. We have some of our employees are required to work out in the field, and so they have been working on site from the beginning. We're deemed as essential workers to work with the public agencies to keep our cities moving forward. And then we have the other half of our employees do work in the office, and they were able to work from home. We have opened our office to allow people to come back, have not really encouraged it very much right now. But, I think, as Brad mentioned, like, this is an opportunity. And for us, I think that there's an opportunity to really understand how we can move forward and what our work might look like, going forward. Andrew mentioned 3 days a week. We're also looking at some core days as opposed to having everyone in the office or encouraging everyone to come in the office every day. We found some real efficiencies and some personal benefits to people working remotely. And so we want to make sure that we embrace those positives that came out of the pandemic and continue to move that forward. So.
Phela, take us home.
So for us, I would just pick 2 words for the year, and they were reflection and reset. It just really helps us to hone back on into our purpose and our why. That was critical, I think, really for our customer base. As I shared earlier, that we have a lot of licensing agreements with universities and colleges, and it was painful to really see just the trajectory just go the reverse direction for so many with hopes and dreams. And so we spent a lot of our time really with our clients, just really listening, and almost like listening sessions on like what they needed, how they were going to get through this moment in time in history, and what that really meant for them. But they were also supporting, within the cases of like athletic directors, a team of people. So a lot of people felt a real heaviness. And so we found for us, because we care so much about community and that investment, that's where we found a space that we really could support them. From a production standpoint, we never stopped in production. So, I mean, the fortunate thing is that we're small, and so we're able to do that because there's definitely social distancing within our warehouse. And so we were able to do that. But it was a year for us that in unique fashion, we had the greatest growth and the greatest gains in what we did from, I think, just the landscape across the region. And so it was just, we continue to actually really examine like what were the powerful points that we learned from this year, and how we just kind of never can lose sight of those. So I think that's really important in business too. Someone had mentioned earlier, we're always in the grind and always like with our heads down. But this year, I think for a lot of us, it taught us that what was really of value and what was important, and to really spend our energy and time there.
That's great. I'd like to follow up to really Andrew and to Kimberly, just to prep in advance. So you had both talked about a little shift in how you're going to go about with the workforce. One thing I would just like to add for your opinion is how do you create inclusive environments when you have half, the team being remote and being supportive and kind of taking those core values, but what's gotten you to where you are is really that team effort. And so I'm just curious, maybe I'll start with you, Andrew, and then go to you, Kimberly, next on how do you keep that environment?
Yeah, that's probably been the biggest challenge, throughout this whole thing is, a lot of people come to work for us because of all the cool perks and stuff that we have, is what we thought. And then when you go a year without those, you realize, well, it's what's behind all those perks. It's the fact that you're a company that wants to take care of your people, that you want to offer free health insurance, that you want to offer a pool when they can have it. And that's kind of got us through. But we also did what a lot of companies did engagement through virtual, outings and stuff like that, happy hours and virtual wellness challenges and that type of stuff. I think the days where we do come back in the office, it's important to set things up for engagement to take place and for people to get, especially the more outgoing people, to get what they've been missing the last year. And so while I don't have a perfect playbook for how we're going to do it, I think this last year showed that it's not the perks in this building that people come here for. That's what they might think, but it's really what's behind those that kind of keep us going into the future.
That's great. Thank you. Kimberly, would you like to add?
Yeah, well said, Andrew. Yeah, it's kind of the same thing. We have all of the amenities here at the office, and I think that it's the value people feel in you investing in them. And so whether you do that, however you do that, for us and for everyone probably on this call in 2020, that looked like letting people be safe. It was about their health and their safety, not as much about perks and, free food or whatever. And I think that the other thing that it really showcases that while those perks are important and that, of course, feeling valuable is really important, we had our survey, internal employee engagement surveys were through the roof. We had some of the most positive feedback about how they felt valued and about what we were doing. And it really kind of all came back to, those are all centered around our why and our purpose. And it just showed that the importance of having a strong message about your purpose and why you do what you do really is what ties us all together.
That's great. Well said.
Yeah.
Phela, would you like to expand?
I feel like they really covered it. I think it just goes back kind of to just the whole theme of the conversation today is just like really honing in on people and what's important and purpose. And so I think it just allowed us to do that in just such a powerful way. I personally believe there are so many gains through having the pandemic. I believe there's actually, and this is definitely to not minimize all of the pain that people suffered in business as well as in families. But I think there were just some beautiful things that as a society, as a community, that we really shows just our resiliency, particularly in Kansas City, that we can do powerful things even in spite of when it's difficult times.
So true. Brad?
Yeah, I would just summarize, everybody said it well, but we have a value that's be compassionate. And I think it was the opportunity for us to show our compassion with our staff and with our teams and everybody's unique situations and come together to achieve a greater good through the pandemic.
Perfect.
Perfect. Thank you so much. So I want to make sure we get to Doug's question, which is, thank you for all of your input. If we applied last year, what type of growth or change is the panel looking for year over year? And why don't Brad, you want to take that?
Sure. There's really not a prescribed percentage growth or anything like that. We just got done talking about the pandemic, and I think it's noteworthy because everybody's going through that this year, and some may have strong growth, some may have been even, but they've had a great business and they showed how they could survive and adapt. And so it's not just growth, it's the whole story. And I want to emphasize that over and over again. So don't feel hesitant if you don't have a certain percentage or there isn't a minimum criteria that is looked at.
Perfect. There's another question which says, can you estimate the number of hours you spent to complete the application? And this, they want each panelist. So also one of the panelists mentioned that it's an expensive process. Is there a cost to apply? What other costs should we anticipate? And so why don't we start with you, Kimberly?
So we had, I think one of the things, like, to finish the application is kind of hard to judge because you're in and out of it a lot. And then we also had a pretty strong foundation to start from because we had a strategic plan in place and we had been pretty actively working on it. So it was pretty fresh in our mind. But I would say we spent probably about 40 hours. And from a cost perspective, I think that's clearly that's a big cost. Your time, your resources. And then the other thing, if there was any kind of cost, I think it was just the showcase itself. There's maybe some small cost in putting, if you brought in some, at the time, refreshments, which we don't have now, we but it was pretty nominal. So I think really it's just the time of the application.
And it will be virtual, like the showcase again this year. I've been kindly informed, so for planning.
Phela?
I remember, I believe Kim was on the panel when I went to listen and observe. And so she really set this threshold. So I was really working for the 40 hours. However, it probably took me 80. So Kim just kind of set me up, but it took me 80. But it was, as I said earlier, well worth it to invest that time. And with the virtual showcase, I think it does allow you to spend kind of less than I had heard other people had spent in the past when it was actually physically at Union Station. And so, I mean, that's one vantage point of actually applying this year.
Andrew?
Yeah, I think we've done it a couple of times. The first time took us a little longer. We were probably, closer to that, 2-week kind of thing. But it is, like Kimberly said, it was a lot of off and on. You get in there, you look at it, you fill out some questions, and then you kind of take a step back. So as we done it, that second and third time, it turned into more like a week. And one thing I would also suggest, I made sure we brought in some other team members to kind of help. It can feel daunting if you try to tackle it, yourself. But yeah, and then on the other costs, I think similar to what they both said, it's kind of what you want to make it. If you want to, go big at the showcase, if it were in person, you can. If you wanted to, do certain things like that, you can. But not any major costs, especially in the virtual setting. It was a lot less.
Perfect. Brad, there's a question for you. It is, are there length considerations? Are you looking for brevity, paragraphs, or pages for the essays?
I would say use the amount of words you need to tell your story, but maybe not too much more. Just from a judging panel, the judging group is going through many applications, and so try and summarize, but make sure you tell your story. I think some businesses, maybe that's a lot more clear, and I think others, maybe, as Kimberly was saying, you kind of got to learn the industry, and so use what you feel like is necessary. But you're also welcome to add a video or do some other media, or if you have information, marketing information, whatever, those sorts of things can help summarize that in pictures and video that maybe you don't have to type out as much. But again, there's no prescribed perfect application. It's what it takes to tell your story.
Perfect. Any other questions? I don't see any in chat. Does someone want to come off mute and ask a question to our panelists?
And while you're thinking, to give you a little bit more time, I want to make sure we also address, we talked, obviously we're here to talk about Mr. K specific award, but this process, when you apply, you also have the wonderful opportunity to get the Esteemed specialty awards that are fantastic. So there's the KC Chamber Emerging Business Award. There's the Kansas City Chamber Small Business Equity Award. There's an international award for small business, and then the Kansas City Chamber Legacy Award. So that is also part, you don't need to do anything. That kind of goes through the process, has a way of guiding you, but it's really important that you're aware that there's many different opportunities that are equally as esteemed and great for your team and great for your business and great insights, for going forward.
All right, I'm not hearing any questions. So I maybe it's one final potentially for everyone, which I think is a fun one. So whether you apply, whether you are the Mr. K award winner, whether you're a top 10, there's a huge accomplishment in that achievement. That's kind of the same thing. How have you used this award to help your business flourish? I think it's a great way for us to potentially to go out. So Phela, why don't we start with you?
I think there's been so many aspects. Definitely you want to utilize it from a PR standpoint, which is traditionally what most people utilize it for. I would have to say, for our experience, is that we've had a lot of companies reach out to us. So just that PR that it garners, I think is huge. and all types of different relationships that we've been able to form in different facets of our business. And it's a continuum, and it hasn't really stopped. It's as I said earlier, the return on investment has been enormous for us, and it's really helped me to understand multiple businesses across the region as well at the same time. So I think those are 2 wins for us.
It's great. Brad?
Yeah, I would echo the PR, and the chamber does an amazing job of the celebration process and getting the word out about all these wonderful businesses. I think, at least for us, it kind of marked a point in time where we just went to the next level of growth, and we've continued on it. I think now we carry the recognition with a real sense of pride and only wanting to do better and better. And so it's inspired our staff. It's something that we live by every day. Mr. Kaufman did amazing things in Kansas City, and it's something to aspire to. We'll never touch what he truly did, but we aspire to that every day.
Well said. Andrew?
Yeah, so many examples of benefits, from this process. The relationships I've talked about, not only with members of the chamber, but other business owners, CEOs, executives throughout the Kansas City area. It's just so important, for our business to be able to have that network to go ask questions, about things, because a lot of the times you think you're on an island, but a lot of the people on here have been through something similar and could help you out. So those are definitely beneficial. I think in 2020, the year we actually won, it couldn't have been more timely. In a year where not a lot of good was happening in the world, our employees got that little shot in the arm of, hey, you won the Mr. K award. And I think that really helped with morale and things like that, because we were probably making some decisions that maybe they didn't all agree with. And it kind of helped justify that, hey, doing business this way, others in Kansas City have seen it, and they acknowledge that, hey, that's a pretty cool way to do business. And so I think there was some justification, and maybe some of the crazy perks and, not totally corporate way of running a business. It was just justification for our employees that they were in a good spot.
That's great. Kimberly?
I mentioned it before, for us, it was not only the PR and sharing with the world what we're doing, and that, that we're meeting these pillars of excellence, but really an internal tool that gave a lot of pride to our employees. It's really helped us with retention. Not that we had a huge turnover, but probably more than that, really attracted young talent and has helped us grow. We've grown pretty significantly since winning the award. And again, that was even through the pandemic. So not that it's the only thing that helped us grow, but it certainly is a catalyst for helping us share that message and get the word out that Trek is doing things different and that meeting these pillars.
Perfect.
Thank you all. Before I turn it over to Vicki, I just want to really do one final encourage note to everybody who's part of this. Being a small business owner, can be really lonely, and especially going through all of this. And we're in waters we've never been in before, and the fact that the chamber has this process and recognizes these small businesses and takes the time to go through this is a very wonderful, rewarding process. And it's a community that you can now access to help you and to expedite, when you're trying to, like as Brad said, when you're trying to find your way out, there's a community that they're going through the same thing. And so and there's such validation and support to just being around people who are going through the same thing. So I just really encourage you to take advantage of that. Kansas City is just amazing that we offer that, and we have that tool and resource, and tap into it and lean on the other panelists and other business owners to help guide you through it. So Vicki, thank you again for everything you've done. Thanks for asking Aaron and myself to be a part of this. We just truly are honored and humbled, especially with this just magnificent group. So happy to be here.
Thank you, panelists. You did awesome.
Thank you so much, Connie and Aaron and all the panelists. You guys were amazing, as I knew you all would be. And thank you all for attending. I hope that was informative and helpful for you. A couple things to make sure to stay aware of is, again, the deadline to apply for all the awards is not August, April 30th. So a little over 2 weeks from now. I'm always available, happy to jump on a call, virtual coffee, or maybe even in person. If anybody wants to get a little bit deeper, I'm happy to do that. My email address is now in the chat. And then one other thing I wanted to make sure to address just before we pop off, I think someone did ask about the Shark Tank style showcase and what that was all about. So just really briefly, because we did do it virtual, we decided to give each candidate 3 minutes to pitch their business or give their elevator pitch, whatever they wanted to do. And it was actually live streamed on YouTube. Judges were anonymous, so they were blacked out. So you had 3 minutes to pitch the company, and then the anonymous judges asked 2 questions. So they had a total of 5 minutes per company, per candidate. And we think it really actually was in some ways beneficial for the judges to be able to have that opportunity. So that's really it. I'm here to help you however I can. We really, really look forward to all of you applying. Again, don't forget that there are all those specialty awards, which are fantastic awards as well. So I think that's it, and we'll just wrap it from there. So thank you, everybody.